Hi, brothers and sisters. Well, this will be a quicker video. It's a little bit of a follow-on to something I tripped into in one of the prior videos. I was talking about midway through the tribulation period, the Jews will, at least a part of them will flee um, to be sheltered by Christ midway through the tribulation period. And most people talk about it, say, well, it's probably Petra, and that's in Jordan, just east of the Dead Sea down in that area in the mountainous country. There's, an ancient abandoned city called Petra up in the hills. It's carved literally out of the mountainside. Haven't been down there, but the pictures just look really impressive. But let's take a look at some of the passages why people say it's probably down in Petra. First, let's look at Daniel 11, 41. This is the Antichrist now being referenced in Daniel 11. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chief of the children of Ammon. So Edom would be the southernmost area east of Israel, down in Jordan. Moab would be uh, above, north of Edom, and Ammon runs north of Moab. So mostly Jordan is escaped out of the Antichrist's hands. So hang on to that thought. But that would be one reason why they would escape there. For some reason, the Antichrist can't get to them there. So let's go to Matthew 24:15 and take a look at one of the references here to them fleeing. Um, Matthew 24. Okay, 15 to 21. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. There you go. And let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight not be in winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, this time, no, nor shall be. Okay, so then that's the key phrase here in 16. Let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. So that fleeing is kind of where the speculation begins. Now Revelation 12, starting in 12 through 17. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has but a short time. And when the dragon, saw that he was cast under earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And to the woman were given two wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So, let's see. Yeah, that just continues the thought there down below. Verse 17 is kind of interesting too. Let's read that one. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. I think this is interesting because it's basically saying, um, looking for the Jews. Now, I'm not sure if this is Jewish people that are keeping the commandments or the testimony of Jesus Christ. It sure sounds like it from the way that's phrased, but I guess that hadn't lodged in my brain before, that they're the Jewish believers potentially in Christ. I don't want to take that out of context, but it kind of seems that way to me right now. Well, anyways, so there's a couple of references to the fleeing that occurs at the midpoint the tribulation very consistent, and that the Antichrist is the one that chases them out there. Isaiah 63, um, verses 1 through 3. Who is that? Who is this that come from Edom with his dyed garments from Basra? Uh, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in my anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. So there you go. Here's, second coming, Jesus' return. And many people speculate here that what this is he returns first to protect the remnant that's in Petra, that's been sheltered for the last 3.5 years. He protects them from the invasion of Armageddon. Now, this is a little bit of speculation, but um, we notice that he's coming from Basra. That's why they say that's why the second coming potentially begins there. He slaughters, as we learn, blood up to the bridles of the horses, all the way up to the valley of Megiddo, which is quite a span, and then likely his feet touch down on the Mount of Olives when it's all over with. That's kind of the common interpretation of what's likely to happen here at the second coming. So again, Jesus coming from the land of Basra when that happens, which probably puts him over here in Edom, or where the city of Petra is, up in the hill country, carved out of the mountainside. So let's connect this up now. We've got a whole bunch of references now to Jesus being called the Rock, and we can just reference, we'll look at one here just so you can get a sense of how that's being used. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 4. He is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity. Just and right is he. And if you do a search, you can go into your eSword and do a search on rock in the Old Testament, and you'll see there's like 100 references. And in the King James Version, rock is capitalized several times. But if you look, it's several times just in Deuteronomy 32, you get Jesus being referred to as the rock. And then also in the Psalms, and actually quite a few times in the Psalms, it says the Lord is my rock as well. And in 2 Samuel, you get the same, where in the King James Version, rock is capitalized again, just like this. So it's the naming of a person. Now, if you do the Strong's reference on this Tusor, or however you pronounce that, um, it's the capitalized version of rock, and the non-capitalized version in the Hebrew is the same word. So I think they're capitalizing rock here out of its context, the way it's being used. It's really the metaphor. He is the rock. And so when it's used metaphorically in the Old Testament, in several places in the King James Version, rock is capitalized. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians 10, because Paul also knew that this was the case. 10, 1 through 4. Let's go back to the normal. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how all of our fathers were under the cloud and passed through the sea, and all were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. and did eat the same spiritual meat, and did drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. So the metaphor gets picked up here in the New Testament same way. And now let's go take a look at Matthew 16 here. Just building up to something that I found was curious in doing a little Bible study here, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Matthew 16, verse 18, and I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I shall build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now this one has been debated quite a bit, because if we go into the Strong's version of this, Peter's name is Petros in the Greek, and the meaning of Petros, as you can see, is a piece of rock or a rock. And then he says upon this rock, and it's a Petra, and it's feminine, same as uh, the it's the feminine version of Peter's name that Jesus gave him. Okay, so it's speaking of a rock as well. Um, and on this rock I'll build my church. So the big debate is, was Jesus saying that he was going to build his church based on Peter, or another common interpretation is build his church based on the testimony that Peter gave that Jesus was the Christ, which that's the version I kind of like. But as I was digging into this with the Strongs, when I came to rock, this G4073 being Petra, I thought, wow, we got something really cool here now. Because if the Jewish people flee to Petra at the midpoint of the tribulation, and they're sheltered there for 3.5 years, and Jesus returns, and he starts by protecting those Jews that had fled to Petra, and comes against the armies of Armageddon, starts there. Really, what it's probably uh, doing here is that Petra in the Greek meaning rock, and Jesus being called the rock all throughout the Old Testament. It's really Jesus is sheltering them. If you want to use the metaphors, Jesus is the one sheltering the Jewish people in for 3.5 years over in Jordan in the hills of Basra, and specifically in the city of Petra, which means rock. So when I ran into that, I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to share that. Maybe maybe it's just cool if you love to do Bible study, but I dug that how the Jews happen to flee at the midpoint of the tribulation to a city that's called Petra, and Petra in the Greek is the same reference that was used throughout the Old Testament for Jesus being the rock, and in the New Testament as well. So thought I'd share that with you guys. A little bit lighter than some of the heavy duty videos I've done the last couple of times around. Uh, Keep looking up, everybody. I think we got to keep ourselves in anticipation mode here, I'd say, but also keep doing the work of the Lord as best you can, and I hope to see everybody real soon.